it's something that's very well worth having just in your toolbox, because you never know when you may need it. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I'm going to be talking about blue stuff today. Now, it's not just blue gloves, it's actually blue stuff. So blue stuff is a magical material which is from Green Stuff World, and it's a thermoplastic. So basically I've got a bit here. All right, so you can get it in different sizes, amounts you see here. You either get 4 bars or 8 bars, depending on how much you need. So this is what it looks like. You see how flexible it is? This is basically used for making molds. So this will act like your silicone. And being a thermoplastic, all you have to do is heat it. It goes all soft. You press it onto the particular item that you want to replicate. You let it cool down, and then it will have the impression within the material. So I've got a set that's already opened here. I think I only need 1 pack to demonstrate. So I'll use 1 stick, and what I'll do is, I've got this figurine here, just to let you see how much detail it can capture. I'll just do the head section here. So we'll do the 1 block, and then after that, I'm going to let it cool, and then I'm going to put some epoxy putty in there. And I already have some prepared here. So this is actually milliput, which I've already kneaded together. So you can use milliput or green stuff. There's green stuff there. You cut the section off, and then you knead it together until it's got a uniform color. And then this is what we'll use for pressing into the mold. Now it's going to take a few hours to set. And then we'll pull it out and let you see what it's like. Okay, so to begin with, you need some hot water. Now it needs to be reasonably hot. So what I've got is, I've got trusty mug over here, and I've got some boiled water, which is in this flask. Now I'll put it in the flask because we don't really have a kettle handy. So this is just to make sure it remained hot. So we'll pour plenty in there, just so you can cover up the whole stick. Okay, so we've got the stick there. I'm just going to drop it in now. There we go. I'll let it sit in there a bit, and we'll check it now and again until it goes soft. Obviously that depends on how hot the water is. I mean, if it was freshly boiled, then it'll take less time. But something like this is coming out of our hot water dispenser. It might be at 70 degrees, I think. So it may take a little bit longer. So we'll leave it there for the moment. Now let's just quickly talk about some of the other things. So green stuff is probably the most popular 2-part epoxy. Milliput has been around for a very, very long time, very trusty. The two work basically the same, but they have different characteristics. So milliput has a slightly grainy feel. It's still very good for remodeling, filling large gaps, sculpting. The green stuff has a more, I guess you call it a plastic smoother feel. So for doing finer details such as straps, buttons, or we can even use that for doing full modifications as well. So you got your choices. You can really use anything. There's also plaster you can use for this. Thermoplastic again, we can drop in. It may alter the finer details because it may soften them. So ultimately, any of the colder setting epoxies or molding materials are best. All right, so let's give this a little poke around and see how it's going. You can see there, see how it's already changing shape? Now that needs a bit longer, although it's actually not bad. All right, so let's just pop it in there a bit longer. I'll leave it there for another minute or so, and then we'll squeeze it on. Now, what I'm going to show you here is the most simple 1-piece mold. So all that means is I'm going to push it through the front, and you're only going to get one side. You can get 2-piece molds as well, which means you apply it on the front first, let that set, and then get another piece and apply it onto the back. Now, if I've got enough time, I might actually show you that as well. So I think that's probably about long enough. All right, let's just squeeze that together. See how it's becoming a homogeneous mass. And then I've got the face there, and we'll press it over. So I'm trying to press in all the different directions so that it makes contact with even around the neck where you've got a really tight bit. And then I'm pressing it all the way to the base so it's nice and flat, so that if I can do the 2-piece mold, it can lock on really well. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Now you want to make sure you've got enough material on the front, because it's dependent on how thick this particular material is with how much flex it has. So if you've got it too thin around your detail, it'll flex when you're pressing in your mold and it might look warped. Okay, so let's just leave this to cool and we might come back in about 5 minutes. Okay, so we're back after about 5 minutes and I've cleaned up a little bit. It was a bit wet here before, but here we have our blue stuff which I left there before. Let's have a closer look at the back. Okay, so you see how it's actually pressed in pretty well. It's probably done better than I thought. So if I want to do a two-piece mold, so they're going to get perfectly to the back of the head, that's going to be quite easy. So I'll do that in a sec, I think. Now let me just make sure that this is going to come apart. And you see how it's peeled apart? That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Okay, so before we move on to the next step, let me just get a bit more. Actually, I don't need much there. So what I might do is just cut a bit off here and reheat it. Okay, so just give you an idea just how versatile this is. Just carefully cutting this so I don't damage the original that's underneath. It's just getting close to the arm. So just cutting off this extra bit that's not going to be used in the initial mold. And we'll reuse it for the back. All right, how are you doing there? All right, that's pretty good. Just tear that off. Stick that back on, maybe. Okay, so I'm just going to chuck this back into my water. It should be still hot enough. Leave it in there for a little bit until it goes soft, and then I'm just going to press it on the back. So, being a two-piece mold, what you have to watch out for is you don't want the secondary piece adhering to this one. And it shouldn't be a problem because this one's already cool. And by the time that goes on, it might reheat it to a point where it'll go a bit softer, but it shouldn't actually adhere to the new bit. So this is something to watch out for. But once it gets soft, we'll just press it into here, give it another 5 minutes, let it cool, and then we'll start making our mold. Okay, so let's have a closer look. How are we going? No, not quite yet. It's probably, yeah, it's starting to cool down a bit. Let's give it a bit of a stir. Give it a little bit longer. Okay, so this example is actually turning out much better than I expected. Okay, so that's a one piece. Now, if we're ready to use that, what we'll do is we'll just peel that off and we'll start pressing some putty into there. But seeing that I want to do the two-piece mold, I won't peel it off yet because I want it to be as tight as possible to the original to maintain its dimensions. So getting close, I think. All right, let's have a look. See that? See how it's all really soft now? It's folding on itself, which is good. So I'm just going to get this and press it in here. Now with a two-piece, you want to get it on a point where it can interlock something. So what I'm using as a guide is that top bit of sprue and the bottom of the body. Okay, so that's pretty good. Let's give it another 5 minutes and we'll separate it. Okay, so it's just been a few minutes and we're coming back to it. So I've had to check and it's already cooled down. I mean, that's taken less time because it's a smaller piece. Now I should add that I'm wearing gloves at the moment simply because I'm using epoxy putty and it's very, very sticky. But with this stuff, you don't need to. So it's all inert the way it is. I just left them on just because they were on. Saves me from putting them on when we're going to be working with the milli part. Okay, so here's a bit that I added later. Now you see how it's just peeled off cleanly? And you may see there's just a very small indentation on the back of the head. Now when I was talking about before about making anchor points, the whole idea is you want to be able to put it back in exactly the same spot. So you see how it just naturally falls in that spot now. And that's so you don't get a warped, funny back of the head. I mean, if you want to make sure it locks in completely, you could put little marks in here, so they're like keying points. But that's good enough for what we're doing, I think. Okay, so we've got the back, and then we've got here. So we'll just peel it off. And there you go. That is the basic mold. Can't see a lot now, but you might see you got the shoulder impressions, the face impression in there. All right, so we've got our two pieces here. You've got the main bit, you've got the back bit. Okay, so here's a bit of putty I've already mixed up before. So this was equal parts of the hardener and then the epoxy section of the milliput. So you can see it here. You got your two sections here. You got the hardener bit and then you got the epoxy bit. So equal parts, you mix them together until it's got a uniform color. So if it's got bits of other color in it, it's not quite ready. That means it won't set properly. So you want it basically the same color. Now I've just guessed the amount, and that's one of the tricky things about this, because you need to get close to the amount. If you don't have enough, then you're not going to be able to mold it properly. And then if you've got too much, it may be bulging. So let's just chop this bit. Now obviously the most important bit is we want to be able to mold the actual facial features. So we'll get those in there. So you see how I'm going to stretch it out a bit. Get that in. And then press it tight, okay? Because that's the most important bit. You want to see all those features. And then the rest of it will pop in the back here. Now, in hindsight, what I've got here may not be enough, but we'll give it a go. All right, so you see how it's bulged? You want to squeeze it like this. All right, and then we'll get our back bit, and we'll stick it on here somewhere. We'll do it again, about here. All right, so we've got all our bits together, and it's just a matter of squeezing it. Now this would have been nice if I had some more, I think, but we'll just squeeze like that. So basically, by pressing into here, it's forcing the putty into the back section and all the way around the sides. I've already pushed it up the front, so I'm pretty confident that the front detail's already done. And what we'll do is, because the milliput takes a few hours to go off and harden, we'll leave it like this, untouched, for a few hours, and we'll come back. And then I'll compare what I've done here to the original, which is there. Okay, so I'll see you back in a bit. Okay, thanks for coming back. All right, so we've left all this for a few hours. So we had the milliput that I put inside. There's the two parts for my mold. Now it's hard to say how long it's going to take to set, because if it's hot weather, it'll set quicker. If it was a small bit, it'll set quicker, and such. So basically all you need to do is, if you're in a bit of a hurry, you need to hit that with a hairdryer to heat it up, because epoxy putties do go harder quicker, or they do solidify harder if you put heat to them. Or you just get something pointy, just poke it in there, feel what it's like. It feels pretty solid, so it's ready to unmold. Okay, so here's that top bit I did before, so we'll just peel that off. And then here's a big reveal, so basically you just open it up like this, and then carefully pick it out, like so, and there you go. And that's exactly the same as we copied from. So when you need to do a very quick copy of components, this is the easiest way to do it. So it's not going to be as clean as doing a full-scale silicon mold type of arrangement, but then again, a silicon mold type arrangement is more expensive and also messier, because you have to mix up the silicon, wait for that to set, and then mix it up again to do your two-part mold. So as you see, this all depends on how well you press all your parts together. You're going to get some sort of flash because of the two pieces. So there's that's a natural flash that was on it. So you just got to trim that off. And then at the back, you'll notice that it doesn't quite meet up perfectly. So it's still going to need a little bit of cleanup. But for something that was this quick to mold, and just say you just want to make a few of them, that's perfect. It was mainly the face that you were interested in, then that is absolutely perfect. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's no flash, no imperfections. So if that's the most important part, you just make sure that you press the putty really deeply in there to get all these details to come up. So that is the mold, as you can see there. See how flexible it is. And if we wanted to make another one, well, we'll just do it again. We'll just get some more putty, mix it up, press it inside. You got your back end, fit it on, 2 pieces. Now you notice that my 2-piece mold is very simple. It's all very flat here, so that when you try to line it up, it probably doesn't line up all that well. Now if you plan, or if I'd planned it better, you'd probably put some marks in here with the end of a paintbrush, and that will give you more keys, so that when I press this on, it'll perfectly lock in place. But for the quick demo, I think that's not too bad. Okay, a little bit clean up on the back. The front, which is the most important, perfect. So that's my simple demonstration on how to use blue stuff. Now, of course, you've got this, which you can use as many times as you like, but the great thing about it is once you've done the few duplicates that you want, you just pop all this back into some hot water and you just reuse it. That's a great thing. And that is why blue stuff is quite magical. So thanks for watching the demo. I hope you learned how to use it and how special this particular stuff is. And it's something that's very well worth having just in your toolbox, because you never know when you may need it. And it's so easy to use and reusable as well.